You're looking at your budgie. He's sitting on his favorite perch, feathers just a little fluffed, eyes bright. You tell yourself he's just tired after a long day of playing. It feels normal. It feels fine. But here's the secret, that stillness isn't comfort. It's a calculated evolutionary move. See, in the wild, a bird that shows any weakness at all is a target, and your budgie is still playing that game, even in your living room. You think you're watching a nap, but you're actually watching a silent, desperate struggle for survival. You're witnessing an ancient, hardwired performance that was never meant for human eyes. And this is where it gets interesting and, honestly, a little scary. Because they mask illness so well, by the time you actually notice something is off, your bird has often been suffering for days. You aren't just looking at a pet, you're looking at a biological survival mechanism that's actually working against you. The truth is, most mistakes owners make aren't because they don't care. They happen because of this survival mask. We assume silence means peace. But in the world of a small prey animal, silence is often the sound of a system that is quietly, methodically shutting down. Think about this for a second. Most owners wait. They see the bird slow down and say, "Let's just see if he's better tomorrow." That wait and see approach, it's the first of the 4 things you must never do. And here is the harsh reality. Birds have an incredibly high metabolic rate. A 24-hour wait for a human is effectively a week-long crisis for a budgie. We have to stop viewing their behavior through a human lens and start seeing it for what it is, a rapid linear collapse. When you wait, you aren't giving the bird time to recover. You're giving the illness time to take hold. That wait-and-see approach is a gamble with your bird's life, and honestly, the odds are never in your favor. But here's the part nobody ever tells you. Your own behavior when they're sick is actually a huge variable, and honestly, it's one we all overlook. Are you hovering? Are you constantly reaching into the cage, talking in those high, excited tones, or trying to touch them just to see if they're okay? That frantic energy? To a dying bird, you aren't a savior. You're a stressor. This is what I call the overhandling trap. By trying to comfort them with your constant presence, you're just burning through the last of their energy. Your bird needs absolute stillness to fight off a bacterial or viral load. When you force that interaction, you force their heart rate to spike, you send adrenaline flooding through their system, and their energy just vanishes. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for a sick bird is to just be invisible. Now, let's talk about the environment. A lot of owners reach for a heat lamp or a heating pad the second they see a puff of feathers. That's mistake number 3, improper thermal regulation. It sounds logical, right? Birds get cold when they're sick. But if that temperature isn't monitored with real precision, you aren't helping them warm up. You're dehydrating them. You're pushing a system that's already struggling to maintain balance right over the edge. And mistake number 4, the emergency supply store. Running to the local pet shop for bird vitamins or some miracle drops instead of going to a vet. You're trying to treat a symptom with a gimmick while their internal organs are failing. You're trying to fix a crisis with a toolkit that doesn't belong in an emergency room. Let's go a little deeper. Why does a bird suddenly retreat to the corner of the cage? You might think they just want some space, or maybe they're feeling a bit grumpy. But the truth is, they're actually mapping out their own decline. They're looking for what you'd call a low-energy vector, a spot where they don't have to waste any precious effort just to hold their head up or keep their balance. If you see that, you aren't looking at a bird that needs a new toy or a change of scenery. You're looking at a bird that has already burned through its backup energy reserves. Their internal map of safety is just gone. They aren't thinking about food or play anymore. They're thinking about nothing but the physical cost of simply existing. Now, flip that around for a second. Imagine how you'd feel if you were in pain, unable to tell anyone, and surrounded by a giant creature that kept poking at you, moving things around and changing the lights. That is the world your budgie is living in right now. We need to rebuild how you respond to this from the ground up. You need to become a tactical guardian. That means having a real hospital cage ready, not just some DIY box with controlled humidity, a reliable heat source, and an avian vet on speed dial before the crisis hits. We're shifting from being pet owners who just hope for the best to avian strategists who prepare for the worst. It's a shift from emotion-driven care to data-driven action. It's the difference between just watching a life fade away and having the actual tools to catch it. You are the only bridge between your budgie and the life it deserves. Don't let that survival mask fool you into being complacent. The next time your bird fluffs up, remember that is your cue to act, not your cue to watch. The bird is performing, and it's relying on you to see through the act. It's a heavy responsibility, sure, but it's the price of a bond that's actually truly deep. I have to ask, because let's be real, we've all been there. What's that one subtle change you've noticed in your bird? Maybe it was just a tiny shift in how they held their wings, or even just the way they looked at you. But it made you realize, wait, something's off. Let's share these in the comments. Seriously, sometimes someone else's story is the exact thing that helps another owner recognize a crisis before it's too late. Your observation? That could be their best chance. Take that responsibility and just look a little closer today.